to start things off. There we go. Roll y'all shit. Amy, Iris, and Joe as the only ones in there.
Pew.
Clicking button.
Pew.
Fuck. Alright, the Mary Allens aren't doing too hot.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah, this sounds about right.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
How often has this happened?
Don't worry about it.
More often than you guys really want to think about.
Someone roll for Cody? I don't know how to do it without fucking up your thingsy.
It's not going through anyway like it's supposed to right now, apparently.
Mm.
So, let's go here. And roll for Cody.
Hey.
You got them 2 light side points. Congratulations.
Let's go.
That's what we like to see.
Fuck.
Yeah.
What do you expect from me?
Gotta roll for
This is
Kira
fair.
too, right, Z?
She just got back, so she'll be on a little bit.
Oh, okay.
5 and 3.
So far.
Roll for Charlie.
Charlie is not part of this game because Charlie does not like Star Wars. Charlie likes one actress that was in Star Wars
Oh.
for all of 30 seconds. When one of you manage to get Charlie to like Star Wars and like sci-fi, then Charlie can roll.
Oh wait, Charlie is in Spelljammer. That's sci-fi.
Mm-hmm. Well, no.
Sci-fantasy.
Sci-fantasy, and that's even a stretch because I was talking to Amy about the other day. Oh, a couple people of like considering the swap from 5e to something else. The issue is that Spelljammer is not science fiction. It is not even necessarily science fantasy, because science fantasy by most terms is like orcs in space on spaceships with like blasters.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Spelljammer at its like most basic is really just fantasy in space rather than fantasy on planet.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the struggle with Spelljammer and why Spelljammer is so unique, and I like it so much, but it also makes it a fucking pain to try and swap if I wanted to swap.
Mm-hmm. Not every system has Treasure Planet.
Yeah.
Can you not switch to Pathfinder? So, like, we did?
So if we end up swapping, it would be some middle ground between Pathfinder and Starfinder, which means that we would likely either have to do Pathfinder 1, so that it would be compatible with Starfinder 1, or we'd have to wait for Starfinder 2 to come out to be compatible with Pathfinder 2, because they're in the process of Pathfinder 2 or Starfinder 2 coming out.
Yes, the playtest is out, but Starfinder and Pathfinder First Edition aren't compatible. They're separate systems.
So then we'd have to wait.
Yeah.
And it has to be a middle ground, because even then Starfinder is science fantasy, and Pathfinder doesn't have enough of the science in it to be fantasy in space. So it'd have to be a middle ground, but it is essentially, from what I have found, the 2 strongest contenders would be a middle ground between Pathfinder and Starfinder, or a complete about face in as far as system goes, which would be very jarring, and I don't know if it would feel good to anybody, but into a non-D20 system. I think it's a non-D20 system, or if it's just very different. Worlds Beyond Number and Stars Beyond Number have a homebrew branch out that somebody has made that is a Spelljammer branch out, but it is a very different system. Like, it would be a jump. It would work well as far as the rules in general and the vibe, but it's a very different jump. Tangent aside, Charlie does not like sci-fi. We know this. Charlie is not in Star Wars. One day Charlie will be corrupted like I corrupted Iris, who also does not like sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
That is until I learned that Star Wars is just fantasy. It's a space opera.
Mm-hmm. Need to watch Rogue One, Charles. Not the core series. Rogue One. That'll get you in.
Rogue One is a good movie.
Rogue One is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
By far, to me, the best of all the Star Wars stuff. And
Oh,
the
I
same
agree.
with, like, Andor is up there, too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Fifth Element's really good.
I think I've seen that.
It's cult classic. It's very cheesy. It's very bad in a lot of ways, but it's also very good. And I still die laughing at parts of it. Stop distracting me. I'm trying to get us started. But anyway, looking back at Star Wars and at the game and everything, we're going to be jumping back in time a good chunk. As you guys originally landed on Coruscant, was it 2 days ago, day and a half ago? And Kane and Kana got escorted away from Iffy's ship from the Dawn back to the Jedi Temple. When I say escorted away, Kane was escorted away. Kana trailed along due to duty. She was not being forced back as of yet. But as soon as Kana hit the temple, I'm assuming she would have immediately turned to go work on her other shit as soon as she was sure that Kane was going to be okay, right?
Yeah, just like, hey, you're in good hands. Good luck. I have some research to do.
Good luck. I don't want to be near Telsey for 24 hours or more.
You've got this. Just don't talk. Easy.
Good.
So, where would Kana go first? What is she looking to do as soon as she hits the temple?
So, I think she would, because at this point she doesn't know Lucy's here.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think she would go to speak to Vexen.
Okay.
Try and go find Lucy's Padawan something.
Okay. So, Vexen Valcor is kind of, if you think of the weird structure that is Master to Padawan to their Padawan to their Padawan. Vexen Valcor is Lissy's elder Padawan sibling, much like Atreyu would be to Kana. However, as Kana would have seen very early into her Padawanship, Vexen had actually disappeared for a period of time. And was eventually found again and brought back and kind of rescued. However, he had been very grievously hurt and tortured during the time he had disappeared. To the point where now he has multiple cybernetics and mechanical parts. And while he was known as being probably one of the most preeminent and promising archivists and scholars before, he disappeared. Now he still has that kind of wealth of information and knowledge. He's not all there anymore. At least not all the time. And for the most part, he stays at the Jedi Temple. Sometimes he will venture out with a group of Jedi to a planet for something they find particularly important that they think he might be the only one that would be able to give them answers. Those excursions are met with interesting results usually. But you move through the Jedi Temple, and we are here till you make it to the Jedi Archives. And it is just a massive, towering room where the floor itself, you look down and you see it's tiled and ancient. Probably one of the oldest parts of the Jedi Temple itself. And the lower columns and walls are just as old, but the further up you go, the more modern the building structure becomes, and you see multiple levels above you of balconies and stairwells and places to sit and read and look at various pieces of data. And in the very deepest bowels of the archives, there are, in fact, vaults that are not even electronic data. They're actually physical paper books, parchment, physical objects that are locked away, for the most part, from your understanding, to try to preserve them for as long as possible. You don't even want to fathom how old they have to be to have been written on parchment and bound together. But they are a history of the Force and the Jedi Order. And as you walk in, you see other Jedi and Padawan, and even some younglings moving around, and you can see the archivists, each one of them kind of scattered around in plain gray robes. Various ones helping other Jedi, other Padawan, some seeming to be looking for their own research. And are you making a beeline directly to where you think Vexen might be? Or is Kana the type to get distracted in the library?
To be honest, she is kind of the one to get a little distracted in the library. Especially if she sees something particularly new or in a section that like she like visits a lot,
Mm-hmm.
So she might get a little distracted just browsing. Like, oh, this is new.
You see, as you're kind of wandering through, there's a table that has a couple of younglings and a Padawan who's actually teaching them and helping them learn about the Outer Rim planets and some of the more highly trafficked systems there. You see another group of younglings have discovered, and you have very distinct memories of it yourself, the youngling and the new Padawan, discovering the kind of horror stories about the unknown regions beyond the galaxy. And just the whispering back and forth and giggling all about, what's out there, what could it be? Both a promise of adventure, but also a promise of danger just how exciting that can be. And as you're moving along, you do see that there seems to have been new updates, new data pads and scripts that have been put out regarding mapping for the war, but also mapping of some asteroid belts and some non-planetary objects that move around the galaxy that have been put out and are being browsed through. And as you get deeper and deeper into the archives, it gets quieter and quieter. You're venturing into sections that are more, I don't want to say esoteric in nature, but less browsed by Padawans and younglings, more by full Jedi and masters. Things that are too old or too heavy for most to really care about, especially given what's going on in the galaxy. And you turn a corner and turn another, and you've not seen anyone in a moment or two, and then you finally spot a figure sitting at a table by himself, still with the same gray robes as the other archivists, and one heavy black glove that seems to cover most of his arm goes up and disappears under the sleeve of the robes, and you know that's to hide the kind of shoddy cybernetic that he had appeared with originally. It has just been reluctant to replace. But you do see Vexen. And I will put him there. And he's sitting at a table. He has a few data pads in front of him, and you see that there's a hollow projector running, so there is some sort of script and various pieces of information he has plugged into the computer at the table itself, that he is also looking through. The arm is just resting on the table. He has his chin propped in his hand. And he seems to be completely absorbed into whatever the bright white script is that is just scrolling in front of him. You have seen him a few times through the years, and this is not the first time you've seen him in such a position. One of his superpowers, or as Lissy would call them, superpowers, is that he reads extremely fast and is able to absorb the information extremely quickly. And he has in fact gotten a program that just auto scrolls through text essentially. And he doesn't even have to flip pages or think about moving anything. He is just reading and reading and reading and reading, and will sit like that and read through an entire document without seemingly even blinking.
Can Kana take a peek at what he's like reading? Try and get a vibe check?
Are you trying to be sneaky about it, or are you just hoping to get a glance as you're walking up to him like normal?
I think she's trying to be quiet to not disturb him, but not trying to necessarily sneak, if that makes sense. It's just trying to get close without disturbing him.
Okay. Let me see here. I will say you can roll stealth or cool. And it will be against his perception. He is also not paying much attention. So it'll be a 3 red and a purple for his perception. However, he is not paying attention, so you will also get a blue die.
3 red and a purple and a blue die. She's not the stealthy type.
I don't know why it fucking typed as you.
Thank you.
As you come up, there is at first no movement, and then you see a kind of a twitch of the head as his head cocks to the side. He seems to hear you, and then suddenly his eyes dart towards you a little wide and perhaps just a little manic at first, until he sees you and realizes who you are, and straightens up from where he had been kind of slouched forward to rest on his palm, and looks you up and down, and you see kind of the brows furrow, and it's not upset. It's more so confusion. And again, this is not the first time you've seen this reaction of him essentially having to go through and like, okay, I know who you are. Who are you? Where do I know you from? What? Oh, okay. You see the brows furrowed for a minute as the Rolodex is being flipped through in the mind, and then the brows smooth a little bit as he places you. And he kind of lifts his chin a little bit in acknowledgement as his hands land on the computer and the screen goes dark. The data pads are still in front of him, but the holo projector has stopped. And there's a small smile. And as he is now fully facing you, you see the side of his face that is burned. Shadows in this part of the archives not helping in any way to hide the deep marks marring that side of his face and down his neck and disappearing into his robe. And there's a small smile as he acknowledges you. It's almost more mechanical, more like this is how you greet somebody, than it is a genuine smile at your presence.
Mm.
But even with that little quirk of the lips, it's clear that at one point at least, Vexen was probably charming, or could be charming. But now he's not quite managing it. Oh. Padawan Oxte. That's, good to see you again.
I think when he when he moved or whatever, she was a little spooked. So jumped a bit like, oh. And while he was trying to place her who she is, she kind of did a small, like lifted one hand in a small wave, like, hey, kind of thing. Slightly awkward, giving him the time to look through the Rolodex on who she is.
Mm-hmm.
And he is a master, correct?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure.
He is one of the few masters that you know of that earned the title originally, not only by having blah blah. Reset, rewind. Generally, you become a master both by actions and experience and having successfully trained Padawans up to knight. As far as you're aware, he has never trained anybody. So it was only based on his actions and experience.
And what did he say again?
Essentially, it's been a long time.
Yeah, okay.
Using, notably, her last name.
Yeah. It has been a while, Master Valcor. How are you doing?
You see him kind of head shift side to side as he is thinking. His eyes dart past you and back behind, and you can see he's looking and making sure there's nobody else there. Before his eyes focus in on you again. Oh, things are always the same here, aren't they? Children and younglings come running in, asking questions about things they've just discovered, and then are disappointed when it's not as magical as they would hope. And then, a bad one, discovering that they actually can do things with essentially magic that they did not know they could do. Oh, it's a daily occurrence.
Does he look agitated?
He looks kind of blank.
Okay. Well, there is a lot to learn here on the archives and to learn about the world and yourself, you know? What do you mind if I ask what you were researching? Tilting your head a bit to the screen and data pads. Kind of a small smile.
And he looks like follows your gaze very distinctly, not looking directly to what you're like to what he was staring at earlier, but more like, wait, what are you looking at? What are you oh. And you can see again the kind of Rolodex being referenced. And there's a blink. And it takes a minute before his mouth opens and then closes. And then he picks up a data pad and seems to skim the first line or two. There are numerous things in the galaxy that are interesting right now. Things that we've never really dealt with. I have heard tales. Have you heard tales about plants having the Force? Never heard anything like it, and I'm trying to find if there's anything in the archives. I mean, of course, they're sentient plant species, but that's a different thing entirely than a tree having the Force. Do you think a rock could have the Force? And his
Well,
head whips around to you to ask the question.
we are taught that the Force flows through all things, so I don't think it's that much of a stretch.
Force being in it, perhaps, but to manipulate and have a true effect on the environment. And he kind of puts the data pad down and then looks to another stack that's on the opposite side. And you see a hand reach for it, but rather than grabbing it, it just ends up being placed on top of the data pad. And a finger taps for a moment as he kind of turns his chair to face you more fully again. And of course, there's always the questions of how to track a Force user. It's always useful to know how to track one properly. You needed to track one recently. I have heard that there's been need.
Hana straightens up a bit. Where did you hear that? If I may ask.
And he kind of seems to frown at the question, like confused as to why you would ask it. And then he just gestures really broadly with both of his arms, very suddenly. Well, isn't our enemy nothing but Force users? Wouldn't you like to be able to track them? Not to mention all of the younglings running around that the ability to throw rocks and pebbles that don't even know how they're able to do it because nobody tells them.
Right. She loses a bit of tension in her shoulders, like, oh, okay. there isn't more going around that she was not prepared for here. But it's like, okay, that makes sense. Do you have a way, or are you researching a way? I'd be interested in helping with a little bit I can.
And he just kind of waves a hand slightly. Oh, there are ways to do it, of course. There's always ways to do it. There's ways that we have to track younglings born with the Force, but it's always the issue of when they are born and we're not able to get them in time. And he seems to be working himself up to just a word vomit tangent. And you can see that kind of the gears are starting to function semi-appropriately, but they also have no brakes.
If she can find a particular sentence to cut him off on that doesn't seem too overly rude, she will. But if she can't, I guess she's going to be sitting in a tangent for a bit.
Let me see here. I will take a cool check versus his cool, which is 3 red. See if you find an appropriate place.
3 red. I don't think I have anything that helps here, but I'm double checking. No. Nope. Okay.
You don't. You listen in like the first minute or two. It's like okay, and you're seeing that he's not even really pausing to take much of a breath. So you can let him run his course, or you can straight up interrupt him.
I think Kana's patient enough that she'll let him run his course.
Okay, let me see here. It's not going to do that. I'm gonna pick up one of my dice. And
How many hours he's going on a tangent?
yep.
Oh my god. Is this why Kane found her, like, half asleep and buried in books?
90 minutes later.
Holy shit.
Mhm. She has the proper. Oh, interesting. Okay, right.
An hour and a half later. And to be fair, he is knowledgeable on this. He does talk about how there is apparently, you're not fully sure that you've heard this before, a datacron that is held within the temple that has lists of possible force sensitive bloodlines and younglings from across the galaxy, both in and out of Republic controlled space. And you hear guesses and a few tidbits from him regarding the possibility of force sensitive siblings and the likelihood of one being force sensitive than the others being force sensitive as well. Perhaps one just presenting more strongly. As well as discussion about the potential for hiding force sensitivity, which is something that you do know a little bit about with Lucy's ability to view the force, as she has explained it once or twice. She doesn't explain it often. She doesn't like talking about it. But you do know that people have the ability to hide and cover their force sensitivity and their force, or their strength within the force, to confuse others that might pick up on it. But you're given a little bit more information about it, so it's not wholly uninteresting so long as Kana is actually paying attention for the bits and pieces that are not just babble.
Oh, she is. She's definitely listening.
But about 90 minutes in, he pauses. You see him lift a small canteen of water that he has sitting beside his chair, and he takes a long drink of it, and then he blinks. And there's a little bit of confusion, and he looks at you. You're not here to indulge in what I'm looking at, though, are you?
What you're looking at may have ties to what I'm looking into, actually.
You're not chasing younglings for the Order yet, are you? Think you're a little too young for that yourself.
Not quite.
She's just staring, waiting.
What about trying to find those who have left the Order?
He frowns. It depends on how you're talking about leaving the Order. You die and leave the Order. You leave the Order for another life. You leave the Order to instead kill others in the Order. It's all a cycle, isn't it?
What about not leaving the Order on bad terms to go kill others? Perhaps those who have left on good terms. Maybe exiled. She's kind of like rubbing her fingers together a little bit.
He kind of tilts his head and seems to be processing that for a moment. mean to leave the Order because you can no longer be part of it?
None.
We have lists of those that have left in such a manner, though that would be very much controlled by the Council of Reassignment. Those that leave the Order because they can no longer be in it, of course, are watched. There is a job, should you be interested, I suppose, in guarding those and checking in on them, though that is a thankless task, I would fear. But there's no need to track them usually. If they disappear, usually they are caught and killed.
Would volunteering to help in those assignments, is that normal?
For a Padawan? No. For a Jedi, for a knight, well, I suppose others have volunteered. Not many that would want such a thing. Not many that would like to see their, well, wardens, I suppose, show up.
Paying those who are exiled and visit isn't allowed either of them.
Depends on who's exiled and why and where. Some are simply exiled for small things, others are exiled for much larger. Those generally not allowed visits. Not that many of them live anywhere worth visiting. Have you been to the outmost reaches of the galaxy yet? Many of those planets are unpleasant.
What about Master Raven?
And there's a pause. You see a full body freeze. And he's staring at you. One eye, what you assume would be the natural color, so deep green, the other milky with blindness due to his injuries. And looks you up and down. And he tilts his head. Master Raven has had many concerns that made him need to think inward rather than outward like the Order demands. What use would you have for him?
What's the vibe he's giving off right now?
Tense, not upset, not angry, just tense.
Tana will kind of sigh, and she's very serious, and she'll just sigh and shrink a little bit in like uncertainty. I think I need to see him. I saw a vision of him. Along with a lot of other very concerning things. And I think I need to find him.
So you say that you saw a vision of him. Vexen, he kind of snaps up just a little straighter, and you see him look around very quickly, all around, over his shoulder, down the aisles, kind of leans like he is like expecting somebody to pop out. And he focuses in on you again. And I'm assuming Kana would have sat down at the table as he was talking earlier.
Yes, she's not going to stand there the whole time. She would have sat down.
He looks back at Kana in the same very quick, sharp motion. Rather than sitting up straight, he leans forward across to where he is now very much in Kana's space. And there's a surprise there because Vexen, as far as you have seen, the only people that he willingly gets within personal space of since he has returned are healers in Lissy. Everybody else he very clearly keeps arm's length or more. And you swear as he leans close, you still smell a char to him. A very faint burnt smell. But you're not sure if that's just your imagination or not at the sudden surprise of him being there. And he narrows his eyes and is meeting yours dead on. You've seen Raven.
Small nod.
You've seen Raven recently.
Been about a week, right?
A little more. Closer to at this point, I think.
A couple of weeks ago. I was knocked out in a fight. And while I was in a back-to tank, I saw a bunch of things. Master Raven being one of them.
And he seems to be studying your face, very carefully considering your words and the truthfulness of them. You saw Raven when you were unconscious. That's... Well, I've always heard that seers can come across stronger visions when they are unconscious and wounded. It places you much closer to the very core of the force that runs through everything. Connection, you see. Like being able to step into a river and know where it might lead. But to see him, I know you've never met him. What connection would you have? And the hand lifts and kind of moves forward as if he's going to like touch your face, then stops. Not close, but the movement is halted. Do you think he did something? Or is going to do something?
She shakes her head.
leaving your space, and you see him shake his head very quickly. Oh, he wouldn't be involved in anything that's of concern, of course. He's not the type, not the ability, but... And he pauses and looks back towards you, Kana. You think you need to find him and confront him?
Speak with him, at least. I don't know why.
He slowly nods. He was wise in the ways of the Force beyond myself, or the Seer even were. Suppose he wouldn't be too bad of a person to talk to if you're seeing things. He pauses and looks you up and down. Give you more than concern if you came here.
Sorry, repeat that last bit.
So he's not the worst person to go to, especially if you're having... And he kind of pauses and looks you over. More than concern.
Yeah. You wouldn't happen to know where he is, would you? Or a way to find him?
There's a pause. You see him frown at the question. Not angry, but also seemingly not thrilled with the direct question. How certain are you that these visions are worth going to somebody who's no longer in the Order?
I think Anna has been very respectful and very, like, yes sir, yes ma'am kind of thing, trying to be very show respect. And I don't think she's particularly great at hiding it, but there's a bit of annoyance, I think, or something that upsets her a bit, that he would like say something, say it's like not worth it kind of thing, or like allude to it not being worth it. It's like it, and she'll harden a bit, and she'll say, the destruction of the temple and of Coruscant is a very serious matter to me.
He kind of tilts his head, and you see his eyes dart around again, even though his face remains pointed at you. And his eyes focus in again. There is a kind of hard line to his lips and to his jaw. The destruction of Coruscant, do you say? Temple. It's one thing. Jedi temples rise and fall and have been destroyed and rebuilt. Well, just as often as the Order shifts and changes on its own when you look at the history. Did you know How many of our temples are built on the ruins of the temples that came before?
I'm sure plenty of times.
And you're certain that this is going to be... And he just gestures around.
I saw that we, and she also gestures around with like doing like a finger circle kind of thing. We're not here to defend Coruscant. This place was in ruins. The people were terrified.
And he takes a breath. And you can see him, he's still processing, but his mouth starts running before his brain is fully catching up. You just hear the quick muttering of, and people are terrified all the time, every reach in this war, in this galaxy. Jedi can't be everywhere at once, though I suppose Jedi not at the temple is something. And he pauses and I don't know where he is. I don't know how to track him. As you can see, and he pats the stack of data pads. I am only really beginning to understand and theorize as to ways and mechanisms that we can look for those that wish to remain hidden and unseen. But I do know where. He spoke of possibly going. Needing to heal himself, and the best way to heal himself is someplace that thrives and thrums with the force in every pocket, every inch, every atom. And as he says the last words, he very quickly and suddenly puts his hands on the table and pushes himself up, like chairs screeching behind him, which is jarring at best in the silence of this section of the archives. Really, the two of you and your voices have been the only sound beyond just the hum of computers and technology. And he waves a hand and turns on his heel. And you know that's a gesture usually meant for come with me.
They'll get up and follow.
Tell me, Padawan, how much have you heard and learned about the nature of the Force when it comes to, well, things other than the sentient beings like yourself and me, and perhaps a plant or a rock or two?
What would Connor know?
I think this would be a little bit more of what she would have chosen to study herself. Would this have been a question that would have sent her to the archives and into deep diving? Because it is a kind of, by Jedi standards during this period, a lot. You're going into the deep bowels of lore.
Well, I know she was interested in languages of other species. I know she did do a deep dive into the Force because of the Force bond. And
still
what
more
that means, whatnot.
dealing
Yeah.
with people, not.
Yeah, I think her more focus was on people. Yeah, I think that would be more of the people and how it interacts with them.
So there's your answer.
Okay. I I like I stated earlier, the Force is within everything. And how it ties people. Despite that. I wouldn't say that area of expertise would be mine.
And you say that towards the end, you see his hands kind of start doing the circle gesture of like, go on, go on, go on. You realize he has gotten impatient already with just the single sentence or two that you were offering up. Like, yeah, okay, you're spitting out the same. The vibe you very strongly get is like, okay, you're spitting out the same rhetoric of like, this is what you learned in elementary school. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
And he just kind of turns and gestures wide with one arm in your direction. And as he does, there's a little hitch in his step. A mechanical leg, not quite agreeing with the twist. And you see him kind of take a half step and a full step and a half step and then get back into full stride again. Yes, all tied. We all have something. It is a part of what makes us alive. Even those that are not force sensitive have something in them, usually. Yeah. But he waves a hand as he seems to almost be fighting a tangent. Waves a hand in front of his face like he's swatting away a gnat. Force is more than just air or life or anything like that. It is in everything, but it is more in some ways. It's what makes a planet alive. The grass, the air, makes it habitable, makes it where it is some place that you or I or anyone could hope to survive on. And likewise, if you remove force, makes it wholly uninhabitable. Or at least that's the theory. And he starts walking you into a section of the archive that you've never really ventured into. It's a section that is more like theories and treatises on the Force in different ways, in different time periods of scholars and archivists talking back and forth and back and forth. You might have read one or two, but you very quickly learned, this is not a section I want to go into. But as he leads you through, he starts collecting data pads as you pass. Not even really pausing for very long. Just one off this shelf, one off this shelf. Reaches up and pulls another one from the very top with the force and has it float down into his hands. The theory that the planet can lose the Force entirely means that it is a wound, right? Or at least the best word that we can use for it. Injuries to the self, injuries to the person too. And he turns a corner very abruptly in front of you, going down another set of shelves. And as he does so, kind of doesn't like hit you, but knocks a knuckle directly into the middle of your forehead as he says, "You."
Just kind of rub her head. Like, I think she tried to stop herself from running into him when he turned. Just kind of rubs her head at the knuckle knock.
Wounds can theoretically be healed. Best way to do that, if it's a person, his flesh is, and he just like gestures to your whole body, is to provide more of what you need to cover the wound. How would you heal a wound in the Force? He is now staring at you.
Yeah, she pauses to think about that. That there's no way to add more to what the Force already is there? To fill a gap?
Kind of head side to side. Is there no way, or do we just not know how?
She gives a look of touche.
And there's again that little spark, but this time it is less robotic and more genuine. Master Raven lost something in himself a long time ago. He needed healing. A type of healing that he kind of like gestures the vague direction that the infirmary would be. We could not do for him, so he went somewhere that would give him more of what he needed to heal what he lost. And this place, again, he just kind of like waves a hand around, while strong, doesn't have enough to spare. So, he needed to go someplace that had more than enough. He finally turns to you and sets a massive stack of data pads in your arms.
Hana takes them with a like trying to balance the weight of the pads. And these will help me find him.
Find possibilities. And I don't know where he is, but if you can figure out which places are most likely that he went that would have enough of the Force to help heal the wound he carries, well, you have a list which is more than what you had before, right?
True. I actually have another question. She'll find a table to set the data pads down so she could look at him more easily. There was another thing I saw. It was a book. Like a book, not a data pad. It had these very strange symbols on them. I was wondering if maybe you might know what they mean or what it leads to.
Do you remember them well enough to show me?
Not confidently.
He's just staring at you, waiting.
I guess write it down.
Mm-hmm. Pull out
You
your own
said,
data pad and write it on like a note.
yeah, you said I got 75% accuracy of the cover of these books. Is what you had me write down.
He looks at the image, and you can see him first like a scan over and then a pause. And he kind of goes back and looks, and you can see him kind of manipulating what you've drawn, even though it's not an actual picture, like essentially like zooming in on each individual symbol. And it's not in Arabesh by any means. And he tilts his head. And then you see him blink. And very quickly he pushes the data pad back at you. And as soon as you like take it, the hand releases and you have a finger in your face. You should not be messing with that.
What is it?
And then he opens his mouth and closes it a few times, almost audibly clicking the teeth each time. And the finger kind of curls into a fist, and there is an agitation in his posture and in his stance that hasn't been there through all of this. And he has, for the most part, with your kind of sense of the Force, it's been that a fairly steady, constant, thriving hum of somebody that's strong in the Force, not overwhelmingly so, not pushed so far to one side that it becomes blinding nor freezing. Just there. But you can sense something almost beginning to shake. That is a language forefathers of the forefathers of our order. Centuries ago. Decisions that they made still shape the galaxy. You're seeing that and again he kind of steps closer into your like bubble. And it's in that moment like that you remember how kind of tall and broad he is, even in his kind of sickened and weakened frame from whatever he went through. He's looking down at you. You are seeing that and chasing that. You, Padawan, need to make sure you know it's worth it first. And I do mean certain.
Right. She's a little. She wasn't expecting this intensity from him, but she looks him in the eye. I will make sure that's the case then. I won't touch. I won't come near until I'm sure, okay?
You see his lips kind of thin as he stares you in the eye a moment longer before he kind of shakes his head and backs up a step and then another. And you see a hand kind of rub over his face. You know the look of somebody trying to get their shit together. And that is definitely where Vexen seems to be in the moment.
So this really shook him.
Yeah, he's not happy right now.
Hmm.
And I'm going to do this.
What did he do? Oh no.
And as you are kind of processing what happened, watching Vexen as he's trying to reorient himself, you feel a kind of familiar sensation in the back of your mind of somebody is reaching out telepathically and doing a almost courtesy knock first before speaking. You get a very calm voice coming through. Padawan Oxday, you're requested in the council chambers for debriefing.
Of course, I will be right there. She looks over to Vexen and straightens up, trying to be more. I don't want to say reassuring, but like everything's fine kind of vibe. Master Valcor, don't need to worry about me looking into that, okay? And unfortunately, I am being called to council. Is there anything else I need to know before I go?
And he looked in your direction when you spoke up, but he didn't turn towards you. And when you ask your question, there's a slight shake of the head and a hand wave. It seems that he is uninterested in being verbal in the moment.
Understood. She nods. And before she turns, she says thank you. Thank you for your wisdom. She bows her head slightly and turns to leave, making note of the table she set that stack at. Maybe putting a note or her data pad on it or something like that. Be like, reading this, be right back kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So no one puts it away. Oh, actually, she'll move him to her corner before she heads to the council. How about that? Yeah, she'll move him to her corner.
The standard Kana corner.
Yep.
So, I'll give you a chance, Iris. Like, if you need a potty break, if you need a water break, something like that, or if you need to ask questions about what just happened to clarify before we jump into the next section.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Amy, do you need spellings for anything? Clarification for the notes.
Raven is spelled Raven or An?
Worse than that.
Okay. What is it?
Here, let me...
I knew that was wrong. I just put that as a placeholder. Ah, wonderful. I knew it was gonna be something. Okay.
Part of the reason when Matt's like, I've named my character Raven, is that going to be a problem? It's like, no, because at least you use, like, a normal Raven.
Yeah. Cool. Alright, well... I am going to step away for a potty break, so don't do anything plot relevant yet. I'll be right back. Have fun.
Well, I mean, if that is the case, I can't go grab a drink.
5-minute break.
So, yeah. Wait, how the fuck does Joe have the name?
Hmm?
What?
What?
Raven? Is that literally how it's spelled?
No, I put it in
Oh.
the
I
found
was
sheet.
so fucking confused. I was like,
No,
what?
I was being an asshole thinking of how you could technically spell a word that is pronounced as Raven but make it look like a mess.
Oh, okay, I see. Understood. Be right back.
Man, the dude that played Raven tried to spell it like the way you did, Joe, there would be words. It would have been words. Also, hi, Kira.
Hello.
How is work?
I have had a not very good day.
Oh.
Though you did get complimented on games, so one good thing.
I will take that dub. I was lifting the very large step and repeat. It was for Anime NYC, so it was like 18 feet by like 19 feet or some shit. It was huge. So it was very funny, I imagine, because the thing is fucking wider than I am as I'm picking it up.
Would promise of Fortnite matches after this improve day?
I do enjoy Fortnite.
Also, hi Jedi in chat.
Hello.
Hello.
Z, I want you to know that during that... Okay, have you seen King of the Monsters? I'm assuming you have.
Yes.
Okay, I was just thinking, towards the end, where they find Godzilla's quote-unquote home.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's like, is that where this guy is?
No, but in spirit, kinda?
In spirit, right? Just like a trickle of pure radiation, but instead of radiation, it's just like a force waterfall. He's just vibing next to.
So, essentially, you guys have already gotten one potential path to go after Coruscant with what Iffy has been signed up for.
Jesus.
Which is Myrkr.
Mercury.
Myrkr. Ravens, or where Raven is a second path. I'm trying to think.
Cool.
Iffy's about to get, because I think Iffy will be next up on the docket after Iris gets her info dump for Kana and
That
shares what she
wasn't the
wants
info
to.
dump?
It depends on what she asks.
Okay.
But Iffy will get the third of 4 paths. And it depends on some other things as to whether or not you guys will know what the 4th possible path is.
Do any of these affect what we discussed?
Slightly, but we will make it work.
Beautiful. Thank you.
I'm not going to trap you, Cody, I promise.
God bless.
What are you gonna do to Mindy?
She's in need of dire repairs.
Swear to God, if anything happens to Mindy, Tia is going to kill everyone and then herself. I want you to know, Z, that I did try. Usually for scenes like this, I like to just make a transcript of dialogue. I could not with his rambling in the beginning. I tried. I gave up. I was like, no, I'm just gonna give a synopsis.
Vexon, bless him, is a very broken man.
Mm-hmm.
There's not just screws loose, there's screws yeeted all over the place, and half of them are missing and replaced with, like, the plastic screws for, like, kids' toys. Yet somehow, out of all of the characters that I have stat blocks for from the old games, he is one of the highest for just the likelihood of knowing shit. Even with all the busted shit. Did I hear an Iris?
Yeah, I'm back.
Hey. Okay. I have cracked open this drink. So, I will go ahead and say this now. Simply for sake of brain power, I think, I don't know that we're going to get to anybody else this session. We'll finish up Iris's stuff and what she would feel like sharing with the group so that you got all the characters to have context of what they would have been told. But I'm not going to move forward into another scene beyond that this session. Which means next Star Wars session, Kira, you're on the docket to deal with Hapen bullshit.
You love Hapen bullshit?
Yeah, right off the bat, we're starting strong with all of the Hapens in one room together.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And Kane outside with another gunslinger trying his best.
You come here often?
My hope is that after that, Kane is going to appreciate Tia more.
I don't know if it's going to be more or less. It depends on how much Kane is comfortable with. Tia is very chatty. Nej is chatty in a different way. You guys will discover. But
It's the gun.
It's the guns. It immediately just starts the mouth running.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know what it is. See, there we go. There's the fix for Kana to make Kana more charismatic. Give her a set of guns.
Good luck with that.
You gotta have two of them.
Give the guns.
Yeah, you gotta have two. It's the law.
That or you're born Hapen. That's your two options, and unfortunately, I don't think we can make Kana born Hapen.
That's some interesting lore that is there.
But you have been summoned to the council chambers, Kana, for a debrief. I will leave it up to you as to whether or not you would like to kind of give the monologue of what Kana would have said in regards to Kane, or if you'd like to just kind of skim it over.
I'm fine with skimming it.
Okay. Assuming in general, he's a good guy, give him another chance.
Yeah, it's like he's just a little confused.
I thought you were going to say he's just a little guy.
That too.
Just a little dude. Little dude, a little lost.
Mm-hmm.
He's just a little confused and a little lost, but I don't think he's not on the path anymore. Or he's still on the path, just a little lost on it. That's all, kind of thing.
And while you're giving this kind of defense of Kane, starts off initially as just questions about how you encountered Kane, how you found him again, what Lissy asked you to do, and what you observed, and then more of your opinion and view on the nature of what he had been doing. You are in front of not the full High Council, but you do have Master Zim there, and Arcus, Master Tech, and then more notably, you have Master Sillin and 3 others from the Council of Reassignment. And it is made clear to you as you are presenting all of the information that the Council of Reassignment is there as they would be the next step in the process should Kane not have been allowed to continue to be a Padawan. And the kind of debriefing takes it's not as hard nor as nerve-wracking as you would think it would be, but it does take longer than you would like. They are asking questions 2 or 3 times over, just scattered around, making sure your answers match. They are asking very detailed questions, and in some ways, you can't help but feel like they are also judging your competence in the matter of how confident you are with being able to perceive if somebody is wandering off of the path of a Jedi, is wandering a little too deeply and too closely to the dark side. And it is, again, understandable, so it's perhaps not offensive, but it is just a little irksome, I imagine, to Kana.
Yeah.
After a point. But you do have several people there in the council chamber. As the debriefing, you can feel it winding to a close. That you could, if you have any questions or concerns, speak to the council as a whole, or leave and wait for them to also leave the chamber to try and catch 1 or even 2 before they disappear somewhere else.
I'm gonna roll for this because I'm kind of uncertain on which path I want to take for here. Well, that's an everyone. So I think once the questioning for Kana has gone through, and she is about to be dismissed or whatnot, she will look around because I imagine she's like in the center or like off to the side kind of thing, and she'll might I make a request to speak a bit more?
And there's kind of a pause. So you see that they had been starting to shift to talk amongst each other. In the sudden topic change comes as a surprise to most of them. Most Padawan are more than happy to escape the council chambers as soon as possible. They don't want to be there. It's like being in the principal's office, but like 10 times worse.
Yeah, because there's like 10 of them.
And they make you stand in the center of the room, so you can't even look out at all of them at once. There's always at least somebody to your back. But there's this kind of surprise, and you see a little kind of furrowing of the wrinkles and brow on Zim's face before he nods and gestures for you to continue.
I realize this is a bit unprecedented, and I didn't intend to bring the topic straight to the head, so to speak. But it is something I am extremely worried about. And who better to speak to about it than counsel?
And you feel the shift in the room go from surprise to some mixture of curiosity and concern as you speak. And Zim kind of leans forward just a little bit in his chair. You are always welcome to bring any issues you have forward, youngling. What is it that you would seek the council's attention on?
Recently, on my previous assignment, I battled some wildcats, and while trying to defend those with me, I was knocked out. During the time, fortunately, the other crew brought me to a back to take on the Paramount, and I was healed. Thankful. Again, and thanks part to Katie Tress. Kind of slight. See, he's a good guy. But during the time while I was unconscious, I saw many things. I saw and heard many things. The most concerning being Coruscant under attack and the temple being destroyed.
There is a murmur from amongst the group as you say the last few lines. And Zim kind of weaves his fingers together in his lap and clenches them just a little bit for a second before he relaxes again. Are you claiming that you had a vision of the future, a vision of a future in which an enemy made it all the way here?
Just to clarify here, Z, none of the stuff that Kana saw was in the past. I don't remember, as far as she could tell.
As far as she is aware.
Yeah, okay. Like, Kana, after she, originally spoke, she kind of looked down a bit, not that she was in trouble, but it's, kind of hoping the council would be like, oh, it's nothing to worry about, kind of thing. But that's a useless hope, obviously. But she'll look to Grandmaster Zim and she'll nod. As far as I could tell, everything I saw had yet to happen.
And Zim, you can see he's processing. It's hard to read his species sometimes, as their mouths are always covered and their eyes are plated over. But there is a tenseness to his shoulders. You can see that there is consideration happening. And you see that Master Tech does kind of lift up just a little bit on his coils in gestures towards you. And I would remind everyone that young Kana here was brought in as a youngling due to her visions.
If Kana wasn't already, like, stiff as a board, she straightens up even more if possible.
And Zim kind of gives a nod and motions towards you with one hand as he leans back in his chair. Tell us in detail what you saw, as much as you can remember.
Is he referring to the whole sequence of visions, or just...
That is up to Kana.
Hmm.
He asked what he asked.
Good point. I think she'll go into detail about it all. She'll explain what the current was like, or like the grayness and the cloudiness, how at first she heard Master Arcus, but followed the sounds of Master Lissy. The shadows of what seemed like combat, the desperate situation that Lissy seemed to be in, the book, or the books. I think there were multiple of them now that I'm looking at the notes. And she'll go into great detail about what she saw with Coruscant kind of under attack, how she heard people say the Jedi weren't there, weren't able to be there. Let me see.
As you're explaining this, I'm going to pause you really fast. I want you to roll a cool check. And it is 4 purple. This is a traumatic vision to her.
Yes.
I think you should use a life side point. We have a fuck ton.
Is everyone okay with that?
Ah, fuck it, use 2.
I mean, it's your scene and then it's done, right?
Yeah, you'll go back into the next morning. So
That's a good point. Yeah.
6 for you.
I'll use 2. I'll use 1. So upgrade ability. You said it was 4 purple?
Yes.
Yay!
Yo!
So you are able to explain in pretty good detail, pretty clearly.
She's gonna leave out the
Everything.
part about Raven, though. She's gonna leave that out.
And you're able to kind of pull yourself together, but as you get through the latter half of the description of Coruscant and the temple, you do start to feel that feeling of fear and desperation from the vision kind of like start to grip you inside as you're almost reliving it with the detail that you are offering. And you get through it without pause, without break, without issue, but you do find yourself kind of shaken on the other side when you are done.
So take a calming breath and end with, and that was what I saw.
And there is a heavy silence that hangs over the room, where you can feel the masters that you are surrounded by. And these are Jedi that you have perhaps not known, but essentially been raised to respect. They are some of the foremost in various fields and specialties within the order. You have some of the heads of all of the councils here almost. And you can sense them struggling to wrap their heads around what you have put before them. And it is perhaps in some ways relieving insofar as, if they're freaked out by this, then, it's okay that I was freaked out. But then
But at
it's
the
also
same time,
kind of terrifying that if they're freaked out about this, well, shit. And Arcus is the first to speak up after. The vision that she had about Master Viril does sound close to the reports that came back with her. And there's a couple of whispers that you hear. And then Zim leans forward again. Are you certain, young one, that you saw red sabers?
looking through my notes.
You do.
Yeah, okay. Then,
Yeah.
yes, I wouldn't forget that.
And you can see that Zim kind of bows his head and is staring at his hands in his lap and thinking. And as he is thinking, tech kind of shifts. You see the serpentine body uncoil and recoil in various spots. You imagine not unlike, for him, unlike somebody, kind of trying to shift around and crossing their legs a couple of times, trying to find a comfortable position. And as he does, he lifts a hand and strokes his beard a little bit. Tell me, Kaname, have you received proper training in your visions yet?
No, I have not.
And he nods. I think it would be wise for you to truly begin this training. If you are seeing things of this nature already.
She is trying to keep down the anxiety of the whole situation and how the 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 hope that they would be like, no, it's okay, don't worry about it, kind of thing, is basically disappeared at this point, and she's just kind of letting that settle in her stomach. And she'll look to who spoke and she'll say, I would like that. If I can better learn to harness this, then maybe I can be more help to the council.
And Zim looks up with a little nod. It would be wise. And perhaps give you a chance to retrace your steps eventually. And perhaps give us more context to this vision. What you have seen is, as I'm sure you are fully aware, the furthest thing from what any of us want to happen. But, well, and he shakes his head and seems to be almost kind of at a loss for words. And it's Arcus that speaks up next. He has, again, kind of remained more or less motionless in his seat. But you do see, as you look in his direction, that he is leaning just a little forward in his seat and is gripping the arms of his chair. Not tightly, but he's not relaxed either. It's a heavy burden to see possibilities in the Force. But, to be clear, what you have seen is only a possibility. Force shows and can show so many differences. There are those that see possibilities at various points that never come to pass. Oh, and he kind of lifts a hand very slightly in kind of a gesture of like, side to side. It's not certain whether that is because they chose purposely to avoid. It was never even possible truly to begin with, beyond just the most wild imagination and most extreme of circumstance. We will have to set about trying to prevent such visions, such futures. We can only do that should you happen to find a suggestion of what we should avoid. Or if one of the other seers finds such information.
Connor will nod in understanding. I will be sure to let you all know if I see anything else of similar nature.
And Zim nods. There's murmurs of agreement from around the room. We would appreciate that. Battle on Oxday. It is grim news that you've brought, but a warning can be all of the difference. So we do thank you. I would entrust that you not spread this information any further than this room, though. Not without express permission. As panic and rumor can just as easily kill a chance as provide one.
Of course, I will say, I spoke with Master Valcor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Valcor. Earlier, before I coming here, I was trying to get insight on what those books might be. He is aware of what I saw. Well, some of what I saw.
can see both Zim and Tech look over to Arcus, and there's a single nod. I will have a discussion with Vexen. And Master Tech looks back towards you. Before you leave on any other assignment, I would have you come speak to some of the seers that we already have. They will provide insight into other ways of both seeking and controlling vision. Though I will warn you, Padawan, the path of a seer is often a complex one. Things are not always as straightforward as you might think.
Right. And looking to him and the rest of the council, because I get the vibe that was the end of the conversation there. She'll bow and she'll say, thank you for hearing me out.
And Zem nods. And thank you, Padawan. You have proven to be very capable. We look forward to seeing what you are capable of in the future as well.
I don't think Kana can help but smile at that, feeling a little proud of herself.
And you are allowed to leave the room. Is she gonna hang
It
around and
feels
try to snatch somebody afterward?
no. I think that's good.
Okay. She make a beeline directly back for the archives?
Yeah.
Assuming with a single pit stop for food and drink.
Yep.
Okay. So you get back to the archives. And you start diving into the stack. And you're not 100% sure, but you're pretty sure that nobody has like messed with the stack and like removed the data pads. You're pretty sure that there at least one or two other archivists have also added to it. Because it's like, yeah, it was like 2.5 stacks. More like 3 now. So they may have just been nosy and looked at what you had and be like, okay, I'm going to add this and this and this. And
Yeah, it's more reading.
you start to dive into all of this. So I'm going to need a couple of rolls to see what information you gather out of this.
If I may,
Hmm.
there's also something else she'd like to look into, if possible. Something she said she wouldn't look into.
Oh boy. What's she looking into?
That language.
The language. Okay.
Yep.
So we will start with the search for Raven.
Yeah.
I'm going to need 3 rolls out of you. First, you're going to roll me force at 3 purple.
General force. Okay. Didn't I believe Kana had 1 point in general force, right?
In what?
General force.
She should, yes.
Okay. For some reason, it's not here. So, okay. And you said how many purple?
3.
3.
Okay, 2 successes. And then I'm going to need, and I will let you choose which order you do these in.
Okay.
A 3 purple and a 4 purple for lore and outer rim.
We'll do the 4 purple and the lore, if that's okay. And I'm going to upgrade that. And then 3 for the other one, which I will also upgrade for everyone.
Okay, consistent. All right. So, regarding the search for Raven, you very quickly find that the books that are the information that was placed in front of you discusses a concept that Jedi scholars are throwing around, but also kind of unwilling to put word to. Something that they recognize as being possible, if not probable, but that recognizing it could also be dangerous. And it is the concept of force nexuses. Places and planets that are so drenched in the force that it almost fills the very air of them. There's another term that some even are using of avergence. Almost like all of the streams of the force meeting in one specific spot. And Kana is smart enough to know how potentially powerful, but also how potentially easily broken something like that could be. And there's stories and tales that are thrown around about various places that might be rich in the Force in this way, of things that are seemingly impossible happening, of races that are so drenched in the Force that every single one of them is Force sensitive and capable of some of the most extreme feats, Force manipulation that could be imagined, but also people that don't know how to live with that being lost to it. And as you read, you see that there's places via this lore, via some reports that were placed in the stack, that could match this concept, this description. Some close by, some further out, and some places that you truly hope Raven isn't at if they truly are a nexus. Because you've heard the tales about them and you do not want to go there. And you are able to start compiling a list. It is slow going, but you begin to at least start to narrow it down to a few maybe possible systems in the galaxy, that there might be a nexus somewhere within them, even if you're not sure what the planet would be. And I will say, let me see here. Look at this. You got 3 threat twice. Okay. Da-da. You get the very firm confirmation that pretty much all of these scholars say that both Coruscant and where's this other one? Making sure this is on the list. Yeah. Both Coruscant and Korriban, so the home of the Republic and the home of the Sith, are likely, if not confirmed, Nexus. And also another planet within Sith-controlled space of Ziost. But you do get a list of 4 systems, but you're pretty sure there's a nexus within that is either in Republic space and not Coruscant, or right on the border between Republic and Imperial space. These are, I imagine, the little hopeful shred that's in kind of like, I'm going to start with these because these seem possible.
These are safer.
These don't mean I need to fly into the heart of the Imperial space looking for a former Jedi. So that is Raven, would you like to ask any specific questions in regard to this?
No, I don't have anything on my mind, so no.
Okay. And then the language. This is a bit harder.
Mm-hmm.
So I will need... Each one of these is going to be 4 purple.
Mm-hmm.
Core worlds, education, and lore.
Well, guess what I have specifically. She said 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
Core worlds, education. And endure. Ah.
You are able to find some traces of this language, mentions of it, in the archives that do point to it being a Republic language or a language of Jedi from a good chunk of time ago. Everything that you're looking at is probably at least 100 years old, and they are talking about it like it's history.
Oh
So
boy.
you're looking a couple 100 years, which is starting to push you into sections of the archive that are perhaps a little more unfamiliar to Kana. This is after your binge on Force Nexuses. So the brain power is starting to leak out of your ear. And it's all starting to kind of make you cross-eyed. But you do... I will say that you can make note that you have a place if you want to come back and try again. A more firm place to start. But you pass out on top of the data pads.
Yeah.
Before you get very far in this. And you do get a similar sense in a couple of the writings that you read through that it is something historical, but it is also something that perhaps either these scholars were not wanting to write about or were being discouraged to write about. But you passed out on the data pads is what Kane walks into the next day after you have done a all-night archive binge. And you are able to see Flissy and eventually meet back up with the group. Is there anything in particular that Kana would like to share with the group or talk to the group about before the split up that would have happened?
I mean, she would mention there are a few places she'd like to go that are tied to her visions. She would mention she's going to be starting new training. And as much as she was hoping that things would be cool, yeah, even the council are concerned. So, woohoo.
So, you know what,
She already told them, though, so.
Do you give specifics, like the specific planets that you're thinking or systems that you're thinking about?
Yeah.
Okay. Amy?
What's up?
These are important.
Okay.
And these are the ones everybody should be listening in for. I'm gonna fucking remove the system. I was gonna do the systems and make an extra step. Fuck that. We're just gonna give the planets. These
Thank
are
you.
various force nexuses. Some of which may be very important, some of which may not. So, first one is Felucia. Then there is Onderon.
Wait, what was the first one you said?
Felucia.
It's so pretty.
So these are planets that are nexuses, right?
Yes.
Or next, whatever.
And let me see. Making sure this is the correct one.
Council's like, don't tell anyone else. Kind of. Well, I already told all my friends, so.
They don't need to know that.
They don't need to know that they already know. You're not telling anyone else. You're following their orders.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kana would specify to everyone, please do not share this information.
Understood. We can keep secrets, right, guys?
Tia.
And we're going to do this, actually, there's going to be 5 of them, because this is also good. So, Felucia, Onderon, Bis, Belsavis, and Voss. Everyone, those are your keywords, class. When you hear them, you know there's something up.
Prize tool to help us later. Not really.
I can guarantee at least 2 of you are going to hear something about 1 or 2 of these. And so there is the info dump from Kana the next morning over breakfast. And then everybody splits up, goes separate ways. At Kana, I believe you are going with Rigi.
Yep.
Bless you. Good luck. Fucking Star Wars sign of the cross, whatever the fuck it is on you.
It's fine. It's fine.
We will, in session here, again, we'll be starting with Iffy and the Hapens. And
Hapen bullshit
Kane
trademark.
with the Gunslinger. And because you did have a good chunk of light side points that were not able to be used by everyone, I will let you carry over a light side point into next session, so you'll be starting with an extra one.
I think you mean to say at least one.
An extra one? Then you guys have to fucking deal with whatever you guys roll. If y'all roll nothing but dark side, aside from the one I'm giving you, that's on you. Statistically, I feel like that shouldn't happen, considering the number of you that there are.
You'd think.
Sorry that we couldn't get to more people, but I needed to get this information to get other things rolling. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, perception.